next speaker, Edward Trolley, is widely recognized for having started the training outsourcing industry when he orchestrated the first comprehensive training outsourcing deal between DuPont and the Forum Corporation in 1993. This session will offer up a transformation framework and set of must-dos for transformation. In the end, you'll hopefully conclude that the view is worth the climb. Please join me in welcoming NIIT's Senior Vice President of Consulting and Advisory Services, Ed Trolley.
Good afternoon. It's great to leave the heat of Chicago and come to some cool weather. Man, it's cold here. Anyhow, I'm going to talk about transformation. How many of you have L&D or training as part of your responsibilities? A few, not many. So it's not the best of times for L&D. Josh Bersin from Bersin by Deloitte in a study this year said that never has employee development been so important and never has faith in L&D been so low. Faith in L&D to deliver value to the business. That's a big statement, particularly in today's world when we've been talking about this for a very long time. Corporate Executive Board says that 70% of training is waste, meaning it's either low quality and or redundant. They also said that 45% of training across the board, all industries, is what they call scrap learning. That's learning that is not applied after the training is done. So that's also a problem. And all the industry experts and analysts are aligned about the fact that training transformation is no longer an option, that it's got to be done. We have to re-engineer how the training function or the L&D function does what it does. Over the last 20 years, I've been talking with thousands and thousands of senior executives and learning leaders, and I have determined there are a set of unanswered questions that many have across the globe. And you can see the list here. Most importantly, how much are we spending today? I haven't found a CEO or a senior business executive who can answer that question. As an enterprise, how much is being spent on training? And furthermore, what are you getting for it? And where's it going? And how can we make it better, faster, and cheaper? All these unanswered questions have resulted in a mandate for L&D to deliver more value, get costs to acceptable levels, get connected to the business, be more relevant, all the things that we all have been talking about here today, more broadly for HR. Some other research, Bersin again, says that 96% of companies with strong learning cultures report high employee productivity. Big deal. Yet, since 2011, at least in the US, productivity growth has been at its lowest. There's been an interesting study done by the University of Pennsylvania 2 years ago that said that companies that invest 10% of revenue in capital improvement get a 4% productivity improvement. Those that spend the same amount in human capital get an 8.5% productivity improvement. So the potential of what we do is what learning and development does is very high. It's very high. Yet, when times are tough, learning is normally one of the first things on the chopping block. Has that been your experience in your organizations? First on the chopping block? Why do you think that is? Anybody? All right, let me tell you what I think. I think it's because we have a broken investment value equation. There's insufficient value being delivered for what is a very large investment being made, estimated at $200 to $300 billion in visible investment across the globe on an annual basis. And if you add in what's not visible, you can multiply that number by 2 or 3x. So it's a lot of money. And business executives have some expectation about that investment. It's going to return something to them. And it's not doing enough of the return side. So let's talk about transformation. I think transformation requires a leap. I think you got to think from the goal back. So decide where you want to be and then work your way backwards to figure out how you're going to get there. Because there's lots of evidence that says that you can't transact your way to transformation. Has that been your experience? Yeah? Those of you who have tried transformation? So let me offer up a transformation framework for L&D. I'm not going to go through each of these, but I'll point out a couple. first one. This is a from-to model, from training department to training enterprise. What I mean by that is from being a staff function, an overhead function, a burden function, whatever your company may call it, to an organization that has a business orientation, runs like a business, talks the language of business. We just heard Julie say that about HR. Get the language of business. Have the language of business, because that means a lot to your business customers. So see yourself as an enterprise and behave like one. From measuring activity levels, which everybody measures, how many training programs did I deliver, how many people did I teach, all that sort of stuff, to measuring results. And it's a poor excuse to say measuring training is, you can't do it. It's too difficult. It costs too much money. That's just not an acceptable answer when business executives are requiring it. Training is the end result to business results is the end result. Another transformation, if you will. So anyhow, there's a handout floating around, I think, that has all this stuff. You can, it's either here or out on the table outside, if you want to pick one up. So, to run training like a business, which is that enterprise model, if you will, means you have to pay attention to effectiveness or value, and efficiency or cost. So on the value side, make certain you're linked to the strategy of the business. Make sure that you're focused on business issues as opposed to what training people need, so that you can bring the right solutions at the right times. On the cost side, expose hidden costs, manage the total cost of training, have best-in-class processes and technologies to support you. And let's just talk about total cost for a minute. At best, this is a model that we described in my book, Running Training Like a Business. It's a model that says that there's a lot more being spent on L&D or training than is visible. And at best, I would say that people manage the small triangle at the top, which is the direct cost of training, that out-of-pocket cost, the stuff of training budgets. But when you add all this other stuff in, and particularly the lost productivity cost, when you pull people off the job to attend training, that's 5x the direct cost. So when you look at what you're spending, multiply it by 5, and that's some additions, some no-brainers that I thought might be worth sharing. The first is, if you haven't done this, install what I call relationship managers. Have people who engage with the business regularly, walk the halls, have business conversations, understand what challenges your business customers have, and how learning can be an enabler for those challenges. What I've also found is this doesn't work by just having HR generalists do it. HR generalists just come up short in the knowledge side of L&D and don't have the right kinds of conversations to create the right kinds of solutions that deliver the right kinds of value. Optimized training delivered by outside providers. It is not unusual in big companies for us to find out that companies are using 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 vendors across the enterprise. And when they finally assess those vendors, they will find that they have the same program being delivered in different parts of their business, being sold to them at different prices. Same program, different prices. Or a similar program being delivered across the organization from 20, 30 different vendors. Same program. So there's a huge opportunity to rationalize vendors to improve both cost and value. Dramatically reduce fixed costs, critically important.